Chinese electric vehicles are creating conversations globally, but in Kenya and many other African countries, owning a new car is a luxury very few can afford, so they resort to second-hand cars. And as the world transitions to electric vehicles, a unique challenge emerges in these African countries. How do you embrace the future and work around the cost issue when you heavily rely on second-hand cars? Well, for Kenyans, the answer lies in ingenuity. They are not just recycling, they are rebuilding their EV future, from retrofitting beloved internal combustion engine cars to pioneering battery assembly and second-hand EV repairs. Innovation is redefining this new mode of transportation. China's influence on this innovation is large, powering much of this revolution. But how much does the origin of this tech matter to African consumers? Today, I am joined by Jogakuru, an EV expert at Qtron Industries just outside Nairobi, to explore Africa's electric transformation from charging infrastructure to retrofits and the rise of electric vehicles and motorcycles. Joe, how are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you, man.
Sante.
Welcome. So, your company has grown from just a recycling company, e-waste recycling, to repairing and building batteries, and also retrofitting EVs. And when it comes to converting ICE-powered vehicles and motorbikes to use lithium-ion batteries, as well as other technologies that you are using today. So, what motivated you to do this?
So I've always, since I was a young kid, I've always loved power. So I grew up in a village where we didn't have electricity. Electricity was quite a hassle back then. So I came upon batteries, which are car batteries. I had a friend where we had a battery, we used to take the battery physically for charging, then in the afternoon we come, connect it and watch TV. So out of that, I was able to play around with batteries, bulbs, motors. And since then, I've always been motivated, but we didn't have the technology which had enough energy. I've always been motivated by motors, EV, and toys. So I've been reverse engineering, and that's where most of the knowledge came from. And I've always loved power, green power, since I was a kid.
So it's a passion that you have grown up with since you were young, and you are in several modes of e-transport and energy storage. How much of the technology you use is Chinese, and why across these modes of transport?
So we use various technologies, with China being the leader in EV components. So there are a lot of components when it comes to the wires, the batteries. We're talking of batteries like BYD, they're the leading manufacturers, so you use some of their technologies. The high voltage connectors, the fuses, they're actually the biggest for suppliers of EV components, even for the manufacturers in the rest of the world. So we buy most of this from China.
All right. So the advantage of having been the biggest producer and then commanding the market. So the supplies are from BYD, and of course BYD is the biggest in terms of EVs. Now, Chinese EV technology is quite the buzz in Africa's transition from ICE vehicles too, and there is no other country relying on this tech more than Kenya. We have seen several Chinese vehicle brands opening dealerships in Kenya, but the question is whether what we have witnessed with new cars is the same with retrofits. Joe, what are your customers' preferences when it comes to technology? Do they say, I want Chinese, I want American, because we also have, Tesla? Or do they say, I want something that is from Europe, like, Germany?
So a lot of companies, my clients, are mostly people who prefer old vehicles. So old vehicles are known for their rigidity, their durability. So most of them prefer existing vehicles. Some of these customers have like 10 cars which used very old technologies like a carburetor. So they want modern in old chassis. So it makes more sense to, and the car adds more value when it's a classic and it becomes an EV.
Does it matter if the technology is Chinese or American?
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. So,
All right. So with this understanding then, how critical is a Chinese tech to what you are doing now, retrofitting vehicles, and in Africa's shift to renewable energy when it comes to mobility?
So with the Chinese tech, they are really advanced in the EV because most of the other rest of the world is thinking about more of the inner rush, but Chinese has built their technology up from when it comes to known brands, they're using the same chassis, same platform. They are transferring the same technology for an internal combustion to an EV, but in the Chinese, they have really built this from scratch. So they have really defined the EV space because the technology they are using is modern, the modern way of thinking, more of like right now we are talking of the Android. They are thinking of more of like Android and the advancing technology heading upwards. Yeah.
And we are in your garage, and there are several things that we are seeing. There are battery packs, there are, you know, electric equipment that he's using to fix all this, but we will get to that a bit later. But I've seen some of your work as well, and they cost quite a chunk when it comes to these retrofits. I think the Volkswagen van is one of those, and even your car. So when it comes to this and when it comes to the cost, what is the most expensive retrofit that you have done?
So the most expensive retrofit was I won't mention the name. It was a Volkswagen still. It cost around $40,000.
Wow.
So he wanted the premium. So he wanted the biggest range, the comfort, heated seats, air conditioning. So type 2 CCS, fast charger. So we had to take account of all of that. So that requires more technology, more equipment, and more time to do that. Yeah.
40,000 US dollars. It's not cheap, by the way. And what did you change in this car that you retrofitted?
So this car used to be his most favorite car. It was a van. So he used to be the most, but he had an issue with it. It grew old. The technology, the wires grew old. He didn't get components, so it failed the gearbox, and he had grounded it for almost close to 10 years. So he was looking for a way. So he was looking for retrofitting it with the Subaru engine, but it was not viable because when he saw the trend of EVs, he was very motivated. And when he went to the US and he drove a Tesla, he wanted exactly what he felt there to be in his old beloved car.
So a Tesla engine is what he got.
Yeah.
Well, a Tesla engine, right? Because the battery is the engine.
We call it the motor.
The motor,
Yeah.
a Tesla motor. How long did that retrofitting take? How long did that job take?
Excluding the shipping time, which takes about 2 months for the batteries, takes about 1 month
1 month.
to retrofit.
Okay. What would it have taken if you were shipping from China? How long would it have taken?
The components?
Yeah, the components. Is it the same time, 2 months, or would it have been shorter?
There are a lot of companies bringing in Chinese components, so about a month.
About a month.
Yeah.
So it cuts the delivery time in half.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what are the most popular vehicles that you are working on, that you're retrofitting? And, you know, you're also doing this to bikes, motorbikes, e-bikes, and things like that. But which are the most popular that you are retrofitting?
The one I've done like 3 vehicles so far are the Land Rovers. They are really loved. The people love the Land Rovers for the off-road. The other beloved car is the old Mercedes, the classic Mercedes prior from 1993 downwards.
All right.
Because they had I would say they were guzzlers, but they really cars which were built very well. Yeah, like personally I chose a Mercedes because a very hard to build car.
All right. And the technology in these cars is it Chinese, or is it like a Tesla, like you mentioned with the Volkswagen?
So the only thing which remains the stock is basically like the old the wiper motors, the winders for the windshield, for the driver's door and the passengers. So the rest of it we strip it apart and we put new technology.
New technology.
So we're putting in new technology from a lot of countries, from China, from the US, and we also built our own here. So we built our own custom software for the cars.
All right. So basically,
in terms of the drive, in terms of the how you engage the gears, in terms of the air conditioning, that is based off our own software.
Okay. So basically, China doesn't have a monopoly in this, and then there is also local innovation whereby they are customizing some of the solutions for these vehicles. And what is driving the trend that I have to change my Jalopy to upgrade it to become an EV?
So number one is cost. Given the how much the cars here in Kenya get charged, I believe it's about 65% duty. So let's say you buy a $10,000 vehicle, and then that will be plus 65%. It becomes really challenging. As we're giving you like it becomes affordable once you do the conversion. Like we mentioned, $40,000. That's how much you get like a basic Tesla from the US. By the time it's here, it's double the price. Yeah. So the hindrance right now is the income duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The taxation. All right. So you can hear, by the way, these retrofits are not just, making the cars current, but they are also helping Kenyans save on most of the taxation, which comes to about like maybe even 100%, It's almost 100%, which makes the vehicles very, very expensive. But for decades, African countries have experienced technology dumping from developed countries in Europe and from the US and Canada. This has created concerns now that it will be the same with EV tech, where used vehicles, which are almost at the end of their life, will be ending up in these countries in Africa like Kenya. And so when it comes to evolution, the possibility or the probability is that this may worsen. But for Joe, have you experienced any of this dumping?
Yes, apart from doing conversion, we also been working for the longest time. We have been repairing hybrid vehicles. So a lot of cars come in here with high mileage. And from even Wikipedia says hybrid cars, the battery lasts up to 300,000 kilometers. We import our cars from 60,000 to 150,000. So it means the battery is like 50% life. So a lot of these batteries will take you through the workshop. We come in here, they operate for 2 years, then you have to dump the battery. So we've been leading the technology of how to retrofit these batteries with new batteries. The customers even who buy the cars from the yard, and they come here and we retrofit the battery before they even start using the car. So I'd say, I'll really admit there's dumping here. Yeah.
So the way you handle it?
So we've there are companies locally like We Center. So we take in our batteries, they purchase our batteries, and they do recycling. So they crash. Actually, as far as I know, they're the only ones who are able to handle lithium batteries, and the others which are used in the hybrid, the nickel cadmium batteries. So they're able to segregate all these materials, and they are used again.
All right. So you also repair full EVs. And now we have a lot of Chinese EVs that are here, brought in fully built units which are new. But which are the most common breakdowns that you have to work on when it comes to repairing these EVs?
So most of these EVs, number one is the batteries. They have a problem. Actually, the biggest penetration right now is not electric vehicles, the bikes. We have a lot of bikes. They come in here with a lot of issues. Number one is the batteries, which we'll be able to show you, which we do a lot of repairs. So far, and 2 months ago, we reached our 2000 battery. We did our 2000th battery repair.
Okay. Wow.
In our workshop. So most of these are related to batteries. You remember there was a time there was flooding in Kenya. Most of these bikes, like 30% were flooded. So a lot of batteries came in here. We were able to replace the cells, the battery management systems. Yeah, so number one is the batteries, and then number two is the motor. Yeah, they break down because of the chain, the way they are tear down. So we come here and we're able to retrofit that.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So the flooding is a big problem for EVs.
Yeah.
All right. And when it comes to these repairs, what are the major ones apart from like when it floods? Do you replace the dead cells, broken cells, or things like that?
Yes, right now, no, we have not really done the vehicles. It's only like a few which we have done. I would say they're really well built in terms of the batteries. We have not seen major issues with the battery, but the components which relate to the battery, like the BMS, let's say like a person maybe mistakenly like jump starts an EV, you fry some computers. So some of the things we work on are the computers, the basic things like the brakes, the charging ports, because some of these people don't have knowledge on how to charge the vehicles. They plug out the connector when they don't know how to switch off the connector properly. So with time they tear down. So we change the connectors, the CCS type 2 connectors. Yeah. And then some of these Chinese cars come with infotainment, which is Chinese in language. So we know how to retrofit that with an English version.
Yeah. All right. So even the communication in the car is converted from Chinese to English and other languages that you can understand. I don't think we have Swahili yet.
Not yet.
All right. But how many Chinese vehicle brands have you repaired so far?
So far, I've seen
Exclusively Chinese.
I've worked on a BYD. The other one was Sang. Can't really remember the name. Can't really remember the name, but it was Sang something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what was the issue with the BYD?
So the BYD, he hit a curb, so he hit the electric motor, and we changed something called the resolver. So it was not detecting the RPM, so we changed that. The other one was the charging port. The client didn't know how to properly switch off and connect the charger, so he burnt the plug.
Wow.
And we changed that.
All right.
Yeah.
It's the same way that when we are plugging in, maybe there are sparks and it smokes and things like that.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's a procedure which you have to turn off the circuit breaker, not just plug in. It will result into air.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So recycling, upcycling, and other such words are popular in several economic sectors intent on reducing waste. This is no different when it comes to the EV sector in Kenya, where, by the way, the retrofitting business is booming. Joe recycles, repurposes, and assembles batteries. Do you build new ones as well?
Yes, we build batteries here. Most of these batteries built are for customers, so they have small scooters, which I'll show you out, around the workshop. So most of these came with lead acid batteries. Lead acid batteries, I think you've been there for many years. You know the capacity is very low, the performance, the weight. So most of these customers come here and we retrofit the batteries. We build batteries from scratch for retrofitting this, so they get more range, less charging time, and they are more reliable. So when it comes stock, about 2 years service. When we retrofit, we give you a warrant of 2 years. We're expecting the battery to last about 7 to 10 years.
All right. And I know that you've mentioned that where you source these batteries and other components, it's mostly from different countries. But how much is of this, like what percentage is from China?
Most of them are from China, the batteries, because the biggest hindrance is cost. So we obviously source wherever it's cheaper. So some of them from India, some of them from the UK, but majorly we get most of our sales from China, from reputable companies, the leading companies in China.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And so maybe I think the advantage that the Chinese have are the price advantage, because they're able to mass produce cheaply. And what are the repurposed batteries that you do used for?
So once the vehicles, this vehicle, like we have the Japanese car, which I won't mention the name. Right now they're dying off. So the batteries are no longer useful in the vehicles. We repurpose those batteries for solar, home dry storage. So we repurpose a lot of EV batteries for home. It's called dry storage for solar. So we've done the biggest setup we've done so far is about 150 kilowatt for a certain hotel. So before they were buying off from individual modules, but we repurposed them with EV, and they were able to reduce the cost they reduced the cost with 60% in terms of the battery, and it's going to give them another like 10 years of service. Yeah.
So apart from the hotels, who are your other customers for the repurposed batteries?
Most of our customers are actually people who are building new homes. So everyone who is building home right now, the architect is asked to include some solar panels in the roof. Yeah. So everyone who is building around here, like 10 kilometers radius, a lot of people who come here and we build them batteries. So we build our batteries in kilowatts. We are very affordable. We get our batteries from repurposed. We actually ask the customer if you want repurposed battery or you want new batteries. So repurposed batteries are from EVs, and build new batteries. We put them new. When we use we majorly focus on lithium phosphate batteries, because they are very known for their long life.
All right. Where do they come from? The lithium phosphate.
The lithium phosphate, we don't take chances. We buy them from BYD or EV. Those are the major companies which we buy the batteries from.
Yeah. All right. So, and the process of acquiring these batteries, I know when you're ordering a motor from, China, a BYD motor or a Tesla motor, there's a process. Is it the same when you're ordering these other batteries for storage?
I would say it's the knowledge which I've been using, because I've been importing, I've been building circuits for many years. So the same procedure which I was using for importing the small circuits, light components, we bring them via air. There are a lot of we get most of our goods from China, so there are a lot of guys bringing in goods. So batteries, bringing them via sea, and there are safety precautions which you have to meet. So if some documentation from EPRA to show that we bring in batteries for storage and for EVs.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And the government procedures, like, Kenya Revenue Authority and other taxation, institutions, are the processes the same? Like if you did the motor?
So I think they are. I'm not really I don't know so many bureaucrats about the taxation, but I think 2 years ago I was in a conference. They mentioned that bringing in solars and batteries, they are zero tax rated.
Zero rating.
Zero rating, yeah. So our client does the declaration for us.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So also it means that when you're doing this business, you have to also understand the mechanisms and, who to deal with, who to work with, because it makes everything much easier, and especially when it comes to logistics. And even as enthusiasm for EVs grows, there remains a challenge with charging stations, which are mainly concentrated in cities and not on trunk roads connecting the different regions of the country. And what we have noticed with most of the Chinese EVs is that they come with two chargers, one for fast charging and another one which can be easily used at home in or from a regular power outlet. And Joe, where are your customers charging their EVs?
Most of my clients are charging from home, and most of them are charging from from solar panels. So there's a growing community of people who are building, like they're competing, who has the biggest solar, who has the biggest capacity, and who is more greener. So there's that community actually. I mean, various groups, WhatsApp, and you can see a lot of guys. They're very eager to know this knowledge. So they're looking for solar, they're looking for EVs, they're looking for green energy in the house, in the showers. They're looking for solar water heaters. So there's a growing community in Kenya and all of them, they want to do slow home charging, so even the battery lasts longer. But all our cars, depends on the cost. We're able to include the type 2 chargers, but we're hoping soon that we get most of these chargers, because I think there are less than 20 fast chargers in Kenya.
Wow.
So it makes no sense right now to really implement those systems, but all our systems include that.
All right. Less than 20 chargers for a country of 50 million. Well, not all of us have the EVs, but you can just imagine.
Yeah, and to specify, I'm specifying the fast charger.
The fast chargers.
The fast
yes.
chargers.
Yeah. So which could be like, the way you just get into a petrol station and you're charging your vehicle. So if you run out of charge, and then range anxiety and things like that, fast chargers where you would go and, top up quickly, very few. So anyway, those are some of the challenges when it comes to charging. Thank you so much, Joe, and for allowing us to be here and for taking your time. We do appreciate, and we look forward to having other conversations, because this space is still growing, and there are many communities that are coming up, just like we had last week, who are EV enthusiasts interested in shifting from fossil fuel cars, if I may use that, to EV mobility. And so thank you very much. We do appreciate.
Asante sana, karibu.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Well, the innovations happening in Nairobi are not driven by the government, but by the local needs of people interested in making the leap into the EV world. The stories we've heard are mainly about Chinese imports in many African countries, but rebuilding known brands and converting them into electric vehicles in Kenya shows how needs drive innovations and fixing something only when it is broken. Thank you for joining me for this CGSP report. My name is Njenga Hakina, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. We are grateful for you. As usual, Please subscribe, share and reshare to keep the conversations going and to allow for an expanded debate on issues regarding Africa-China relations. The entire team at CGSP is looking forward to a bigger and better 2025 with more interesting and insightful stories.